You're back with On Track here on the talkSPORT network, on talkSPORT 2, the talkSPORT podcast network, and of course the talkSPORT Driving YouTube channel. And now we welcome an absolute legend to the show. I'm really excited to see this new documentary, American Thunder NASCAR to Le Mans. It's the story of the running of the NASCAR in the centenary Le Mans race a couple of years ago. And I'm pleased to say that 7-time NASCAR Cup champion Jimmie Johnson joins me right now. I mean, you must see the preparations for Le Mans this weekend, Jimmie, and you must be like, kind of wish I was there.
I certainly do. It is such an incredible event. I've been trying to get back, but it's kind of tough to find a seat, especially in today's world with the three drivers in the fact that you need to run the full WEC series to get in. But I certainly hope to find my way back to Le Mans at some point, even if I'm just there watching. But we had the most incredible experience in 2023, and I'm excited now for the documentary to come out and everyone can see what really went on behind the scenes.
Yeah, well, it's out now on Amazon Prime. I haven't seen it yet, but I've seen the teaser, and already the teaser is getting me excited. I actually sent it to a few friends that were there, and they said the one lasting memory they have of that race that year, and bear in mind that it was the 100th Le Mans running, was the incredible volume of your car that you drove around that track. My friend was sort of saying he had to try and stack 2 sets of earplugs on each other. It was so loud. I think there was a real love affair for the sort of just general motorsports fans, because they could hear you coming and they could hear you going. And I won't sort of ruin it for people who are going to watch this documentary. They don't know what happens, but I think everyone was supporting you in a way, because it was such a magical occasion that kind of, I guess it goes back to 1976, doesn't it? This sort of passion for getting a Le Mans car and running it at NASCAR and running it at Le Mans.
Yeah, it does. And certainly for the France family, and the France family owns NASCAR. And so for Jim France to kind of lean into his father's vision that took place in 76 and to go back was really special to him. Jim France also owns the IMSA series. And as we know, sports car racing, there's been a great collaboration now between IMSA and WEC. And you can take your WEC card to the Rolex 24 or bring over your Rolex card to run at Le Mans. And all of that and the timing really led to this opportunity for the Garage 56 car. And to come over and compete, it was really my first time out of the country racing, and to see how many, real motorheads there are. And it sounds crazy, but I didn't expect so many people to pay attention to U.S. motorsport. But so many do, and so many knew of me, knew of NASCAR, knew of Hendrick. And the other thing that really stood out to me was the love of the V8 engine. Even living in London, I've been here for 2 years now, and to get into a conversation with a petrol head and that talk about a V8 car, or maybe they have one, they've collected it, or they've got a Cobra or whatever it might be. The love of the race car and the love of loud race cars in Europe really caught me off guard. It's been neat to see.
Yeah, you were obviously teamed up in that car with Jenson Button, who we actually had on the show yesterday. And the direct quote from him about his experience of driving Le Mans as he prepares to drive it again this weekend is that this race means more to him than any other race. And we're talking about, an F1 world champion here. What did it mean to you to finally get to race at Le Mans? Kind of combining your passion for driving, but also I know you've got a big passion for travel as well. And getting to drive that iconic track must have been pretty special.
It was in such a unique experience where, our pressure showed up in a different way. We didn't have the pressure of trying to win a class or category, but really the pressure of representing NASCAR in the correct fashion. And, for those that don't follow NASCAR all that closely, it's hard to know just how technical the sport is and how much energy, resources, modern tools, all these different elements that we use to really perfect our car. And, NASCAR wants to keep it about the people that work in the sport, so they don't allow data on the cars at a track. But when we're not at the track, we have this parallel universe that is much like F1, that we're creating everything that we can, all the bits, software, simulations, simulators, all of it it's all the same. And we felt like we had a chance to really represent U.S. auto racing and an obligation to perform at a really high level. And so we approached testing everything that went on. We approached it like we were going there to race for the overall win. And we show up, we realized the car's prepped and ready. We had internal confidence about how the car would perform or received well, and we could just soak it in. And that was the neatest thing about the experience, is to be at a major, major event, but able to soak it in, able to enjoy it. We went out as the drivers, we went out after the last night practice. There's a bar outside of the paddock, and we went up there and just bought some beers and hung out with the fans and just soaked it in as race fans. And you would never do that if you're there like truly racing for the overall win. So again, it was a different type of pressure, but we try to experience as much as possible.
I'm intrigued to know what it was like, because, you know, you are the greatest of all time, or at least you're one of the greatest of all time in NASCAR. And I know that in the UK, maybe there are cult fans of NASCAR, but it's not something that we will watch religiously every week. It's a lot more accessible than it used to be. But what does someone like yourself, who's reached the pinnacle of your sport, and what does Jenson Button, an F1 world champion, what do you kind of talk about other than racing? Because, you know, you maybe you can just chill and you have achieved what you wanted to achieve in life, and you can just enjoy the rest of what experiences you get. But what kind of things do you talk about?
Well, race car drivers aren't that smart. So simple humor is something that we're all pretty good at, and had plenty of laughs. I'd also say that we all knew each other going into it. So we already had a base friendship to work from. And that allowed us to pull pranks on each other and harass each other at will, stick each other with bills at dinner, and, you know, all the fun things that make drivers laugh and have a good time. But, you know, there were elements where it was very much focused on the car itself and the experience. And then for you know, at least Rocky, Jenson, and myself, we had Jordan Taylor as a backup driver and working with us. He's not a father yet, but Jenson's a new father. Rocky has some young kids. I have young kids. So just life, you know, and this adaptation of slowing down some, but still being highly motivated to be behind the wheel of a race car, balancing family and professional life. You know, so there was a lot in and around just kind of life experiences.
I'm interested to know, Jenson's a very switched on guy. You know, whenever he comes on our radio shows, you know, you can't out joke him, you can't out knowledge him. He really is constantly switched on. It's a classic racing driver mentality. I'm just intrigued to know maybe one prank you got over on Jenson, because I'd be quite impressed.
Right. His wit, I mean, the guy just has the quickest comebacks. That's what I've loved about being in England, is just that British wit. Right when you think you've got someone, I mean, he just comes back firing. It's been a few years, so I'm struggling for the exact opportunity or examples, but he represented England well and had his humor in top form.
I'm glad to hear it. I wouldn't expect
Yes.
anything less from Jenson. We obviously know that you tested an F1 car. We've all seen the video of you and Fernando Alonso together. Why do you think it is that there's a lot of young American racers that aren't a little bit more tempted to follow the path into F1? Because we obviously have Cadillac launching into F1 next year, and there's a huge conversation around, do they go for an experienced veteran from Formula One and a young American driver to represent that American team? And it feels like there aren't that many names in the frame.
Yeah, I wish there were more. I feel like the super license process is certainly a big stumbling block. Even after my 7 championships in NASCAR and my interest in trying to go to Formula One, I didn't have enough points to have the super license. And I haven't looked at it recently, but I think even for an IndyCar driver, there's some kind of exemption or special filing for points that's required to have an IndyCar driver come in, which is certainly from a Formula driver is crazy. So it's just not highly incentivized, or the pathway doesn't seem realistic. So I think that's probably the biggest step. The other part is it's so far away and you don't know people, and the garage area or paddocks, it's its own environment. And we all hear and understand just how ruthless it is in F1 paddock. And I think it feels pretty daunting, and you're just not sure how it's going to go. If you're going to have a knife in your back before, at what point in time, you just don't know how it's going to play out. So I think those are probably the two biggest things.
How far do you think you could have got had you got that path into F1? Because I know when you tried that McLaren out, in a few years ago, 2018, I think it was, you weren't far off Fernando Alonso. And I know that in motorsport, obviously, 2/10 is quite a lot. But given time and given more practice, I feel like you could have done pretty well. Do you agree?
Yeah, and it really boils down to time. IndyCar racing for 2 years, and the second year was far more competitive. If I stayed a third or fourth, I think I would have been incrementally better. At that point, looking at my age in 2018, I was probably over the hump for anyone being patient with me and giving me enough time to get up to speed. So in some ways, I'm thankful it didn't play out because it may not have been my finest performance. But where I was in 2018, because I retired in 2020, I just wanted new challenges and I wanted experiences. And I started to not care what other people thought about me then. Um, I get one chance to walk this earth. I've had a great opportunity to drive and experience cool cars and cool tracks. And I later in my career wanted to continue to lean into that and have more. And so I would have taken the opportunity had it come about. And it would have really tested my notion of how much I care. But to be on a Formula One grid would have been just the most incredible kind of cherry on top of an amazing career.
I think we would have all loved to see you alongside Lewis Hamilton, just to see what, multiple world champion versus multiple world champion could have done. But you know what? It didn't happen. We know that Kyle Larson, actually, who's driven in obviously NASCAR and IndyCar, he had some very bold claims about being as good, if not better, than Max Verstappen a few years back. You know the guy a lot better than I do. Do you think that's there's any sort of anything in that? Do you think he could have maybe given Max a good run? I know Max kind of brushed it off and wasn't that bothered.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough when you try to compare Kyle to get into a Formula One car. That's Max's toy, right? Now, if you take Max out of F1 and put him in a NASCAR vehicle, that's Kyle's toy. But if you find a middle ground and put these guys in different cars, and that's the point Kyle was trying to make, is the versatility he has and all the different vehicles that he drives. That's what he was speaking into. But I'm glad it made the headlines. I mean, we all need a little controversy, in comparison back and forth. And gosh, I hope it does lead to something someday. Kyle's certainly moving around, trying a lot of different cars. And now with Max, and he's showing up at the Nürburgring under an alias name, driving something different. He's made plenty of remarks in the press that he has other ambitions than just being a lifer in Formula One. Maybe we'll get that showdown one day.
Yeah, I hope so. I've recently enjoyed the video of you with Tom Brady, by the way. I know that you're based in London now. Tom Brady's got this interest in Birmingham City. You had him in that Indy car in the two-seater. The first question actually on that is, how hard did you go? Did you go all out knowing that you've got, a 7-time Super Bowl winner behind you?
I did. I made sure I did some practice laps first to understand the limit of the car and then put him in. It would have made some really bad TV if I had stuffed that thing in the wall. Yeah, that would have been bad.
Not ideal. Has he managed to get you into Birmingham City then? Because, they've recently got a promotion. They're in the championship now. We see him around there. There's Ryan Reynolds versus Tom Brady with their ownership battle. You're a team owner yourself. Could you maybe be tempted to get involved and buy a soccer team over here in the UK?
I don't think I would buy a team. I mean, I certainly would jump at the opportunity to be involved with Birmingham. Tom Brady and I have a mutual friend in Tom Wagner from Knighthead Capital. And Knighthead owns the Birmingham City Football Club, and there's a great relationship between the two Toms there. Coincidentally, Knighthead Capital is our investor in Legacy Motor Club. And so that's how this connectivity has all come together. I've been to a handful of Birmingham games now, and I was at Wembley for kind of the end of the year, and have been up to Birmingham a few times, and was there when they played Wrexham and saw that madness. It was just great to see it, and just happy for my friends. They're doing a lot with that club, and a lot of big plans for the future.
So you're more team Tom Brady than you are team Ryan and Rob. Got to keep loyal.
I am team Tom Brady, Tom Wagner. Rob and Ryan are great, but I know where my alliance lies.
Absolutely. We're going to have to
Yes.
wrap up very soon, but I know you started on two wheels. I know it wasn't on track. It was kind of dirt bike kind of things, but we're watching Marc Marquez do some pretty special things over in MotoGP. I don't know how up you are on your
Yeah.
MotoGP, but he's currently a six-time MotoGP champion. If he wins again this year, he'll equal your record and Michael Schumacher and Lewis Hamilton in winning 7 times. But for him and what he's been through, I don't know how much you've seen of his injuries and his sort of 30% rotation they had to do on his arm so he could just get back on a bike. You must be, as a racer and someone who started on two wheels, pretty impressed by what you're seeing.
Beyond impressed. Like when he showed up on the scene, he completely changed the riding style. I mean, I remember looking in a magazine and I'm like, there's no way he's dragging his elbow. Like you drag knees, but you cannot lay a bike over that far. That's wrong. It, it's right. It's what he does. So he has absolutely turned MotoGP on its ear. I grew up, as you mentioned, racing motocross and had some friends and acquaintances that I knew that raced in MotoGP. So the late Nicky Hayden was friendly with him. And then also you may remember Colin Edwards. Colin and I actually raced motocross together, um, when we were 8, 10, 12 years old racing dirt bikes. And then he made the switch to asphalt and went on. So I've kept a close eye on it just because I've had friends there. And once you meet a MotoGP rider and you understand just how different they are, I love being around them and I love watching them do what they do. And Marquez is such a special talent.
I was recently in Austin, actually, and I said to the guy I was with, one of the broadcasters from the UK, I said that they are fearless. And he said, no, they're not fearless. It's the fear of getting something wrong. It's your body on the line rather than a piece of car that actually makes you a good rider. And that's kind of stuck with me because these guys are pretty crazy. Obviously, we have to wrap up here. We obviously hope that Marc Marquez can make it a 7 and then he can join your special club there. Do you think, finally, I know you're a big golf fan, you've played with Rory McIlroy. Do you think Rory's going to get to a 7th major title? Because it's been a little while and he's recently kind of got that hoodoo off his back, hasn't he?
He has. Gosh, what an incredible Masters to watch. And yeah, sitting there at 6, I think 7 is very possible. I do appreciate the game of golf and love to play. And the time I played with Rory, I was off to such a rough start early in the morning. He suggested that I have a beer to kind of mellow things out. So great guy. And certainly in Charlotte, where I've spent most of my life and where my race team's based, he's beloved there. His success at the Quail Hollow Golf Club and the respect that he's shown our city and the Harris family there is very appreciated. And great guy. And man, I certainly hope he gets his 7th.
Yeah, I'm sure you can share a little beer when he makes his 7th and joins your special 7 club. Look, thank you very much for finding time to chat to me. We look forward to watching American Thunder NASCAR de Le Mans. It's available on Amazon Prime right now. Best of luck with your driving endeavours this year. And of course, your team now being a team owner as well.
Definitely. Thanks for the chat. And I would love to have you over to NASCAR race soon.